We're back with another video. This time it's a long video, not a short. And still trying to get the hang of this whole editing thing. Haven't really done this much, but just bear with me, I guess, while I get the hang of things. But as you can see here, we're putting down a gravel base for the concrete shell. This helps with compaction, so the owners won't have settlement issues once the pool is shot with concrete and filled with water once the project's all done. So right here, I got back in skid steer because we needed more gravel inside the pool. As you can see, I'm moving it, dumping 2 loads. I dumped more than this, but I cut up the video some just to keep it short. Right here, we're using rebar pins to mark the gravel height that we want for the depth. This particular pool is 6'6" in the deep end and 3'6" in the shallow end. And we use pins to mark the depths and then get the correct slope so it looks nice and pretty. And it's easier for us to do it this way, we found out through a bunch of different methods and techniques. So yeah. Right here, I'm using a concrete rake to smooth out the gravel. We finally got it down to the elevation we needed, or the grade we wanted. And yeah, that's what we usually use. Call it a concrete rake or a comalong. That's what we like to call it. What I'm working on right here, we like to call it Teex, which is just rebar, and we use this material that we call Teex, but I mean, you could also call it pool wire, which is just wire with like a tarp or canvas type material stuck on it, which is pretty durable. And as you see here, I'm putting these rebar pins in the ground, just putting them in place. Then you'll see up ahead, I use a chipping hammer with a rod driver to drive them into the ground. We have to make sure they're in there pretty good so that when we fill it up with gravel, it doesn't bust open or move from its place. We usually have to do this when there's not firm ground to set the pool on top of. So this is where the tanning ledge is gonna go. So all the dirt underneath it was just soft and mushy, so we had to take it out, and we're basically building firm ground for the shell to sit on top of, so it doesn't have settlement issues once it's been shot and filled with water, so it doesn't crack. And this is what we typically do at every pool that we find bad soil in. Right here I'm using a rebar twister to tie the rebars with some ties. I usually like to use this for the rebar when it needs to be strong and tied right. The gun does it quick, but it doesn't really tie it as tight or as strong as I would like it to. So you need that when it's something like this that you're gonna fill it with gravel and has a lot of weight pushing on it. And right here is the material that I was talking about previously about the steel Teex. So you can see it's pretty rigid and tough and really holds up to the stresses of the gravel. I finally got my hands on the excavator. As you can see, I'm filling up the structure that I made with gravel. And I don't film some of the things because we're just working and I don't really have time to try to get every single shot. And I'm still new to this, so I'm just trying to make it work as I go. You can see my dad right there to the left. He's working on another steel Teex structure. That's for the spa. That's where the spa is going to be. There was soft soil there too, so we had to dig down till we got to firm enough ground. As you can see, it's quite a bit, but it is 18 inches elevated above the pool elevation. So we're almost done with the gravel right here. As you can see, we're already in the shallow end going towards the end of the pool. This typically takes us probably about half a day or 4 to 6 hours depending on the size of the pool. And as you can see here, I didn't really record the first step, but I'm starting the rebar. This is what I'd like to do. I like to start with the base and just put rebar chairs and pins to hold everything in place, so once the rebar's set, it doesn't move or it doesn't get out of line. And the chairs, I like to place them underneath before I start everything, because once it's all done, it gets pretty heavy and it's pretty hard to lift up and try to get about 4 inches of clearance to install the plastic chairs underneath. You may have seen 2 rebars that aren't really in line with the base that I'm making. Those 2 are what mark the depths, the changes. We call those breakers. So that's where I would or I will bend the rebars so that it's a smooth transition for the rebar, so it doesn't lift up in the slope area. 'Cause if you don't bend it there, the whole slope area will be lifted up or pushed down in the deep end. So we just like to keep everything even and uniform, which is very important for the concrete. For this particular pool, I'm marking off the rebar grid at 10 inches. We usually do it at whatever the contractor tells us to do it at. We're a subbing group, so we do what they ask us to do. So if they want it 8 by 8, 6 by 6, or 1 foot by 1 foot, we do that too. So yeah, that's the pool I have uploaded before this one. You can tell the squares or the grid is a lot smaller because we had bad dirt there, so we had to dig out the entire pool about 8 feet deep and just fill it up with stone. And they want us to really reinforce it, so that's what we had to do, 8 by 8. I'm also installing pins in the wall. This is for another base that goes around the entire pool, kind of like a ring. This is for the rebar, so we can tie it up to the walls and it'll all be level and be the correct distance away from the form, just so it can be the right in the right position for the concrete. What I'm doing right here is I'm going around with what we call a 7R to mark all the pins that I put in the wall at the correct distance. This is how far the rebar has to be from the forms. Alright, so I'm almost wrapping this video up, but this is just part 1 and we're barely halfway through. If you guys like the content, just subscribe and like for more, and it's just the overview of the work site at the end of the day. So yeah.